is the RIOT podcast, and this is a special edition of the podcast. This is the first time we're actually doing this, just the two of us, although we kind of premiered this idea recently with the RIOT Rendezvous. We got to talk to, in that episode, we talked to Jeff and Cullen, RadioU listeners, supporters, and that was kind of the beginning of what is now a podcast that doesn't have a name. But this is like normally
working on the name.
Normally, what you hear in the podcast is taken from the RIOT Morning Show on RadioU. This is just for you as a podcast listener. It's just us. This is special. This isn't good going out on the radio. So today, our topic is going to be Marvel. I guess I should say we need a name for this. Don't we need a special name for this?
We do, yeah.
Portion of the podcast.
It can't be called the Worst of the RIOT podcast because we already have that, and that's not what this is.
No, this is different. It's still in the same feed, but it's got to have a different name.
Work on it. You can text it in.
Text it in at 8772-RadioU if you've got an idea for what we should call these bonus episodes, these bonus weekly RIOT episodes. And if you got ideas for what you'd like to hear us talk about and chime in with your thoughts, 8772-RadioU, of course, leave them in our social media comments section. Now, today's topic is going to be Marvel. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Marvel lately. The Marvels just came out in theaters. The worst opening weekend for any Marvel movie in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I don't want to take a doom and gloom. We're positive guys. So I want to.
Are we?
Yeah, we've got a positive outlook on life. We always find the silver line. I want to look at the bright side. And so I want to think about the good Marvel memories by and large that we have, like the good times of Marvel, because I just want to be positive. I don't want to look at all the negatives of Marvel. So my first question for you, Isaiah, is what is your favorite Marvel memory throughout the years?
It's a good question. When I think back to the primo days of Marvel, it's definitely that time between Infinity War and Endgame. That's my favorite Marvel memory. There's because I could say like a certain part of a certain movie that I thought was really good, but I think just like the time period of in between Infinity War and Endgame, because that's really when Marvel hit their like ultimate stride, is when Thanos snapped, got rid of half the universe, and then we were just on the edge of our seats waiting for Endgame to come out, and that's like all that me and my friends would talk about. And so
during how they were going to get the people back, or what's going to happen.
And so during that time period where it was at the end of the Infinity Saga, that's when it really hit its stride for me. It was the most fun, the most exciting. That was probably my favorite Marvel memory.
See, my favorite Marvel memory is actually going back to the first Avengers in 2012. And the reason I say that is because I remember seeing that. I believe I saw the Avengers multiple times in theaters. And it's not the best Marvel movie, but when that came out, it was just so special. There's like that. I had never had a movie experience like that to that point in my life where you go to the theater, everybody's so hyped about it. There hadn't been like we all like the superheroes individually, and then they're all getting together, and it's like this epic thing. It was just going to the theater at that time was something else. And I think that may have been recreated in some of the other movies along the way following that. However, for like Infinity War and Endgame, at least one of those two I saw at the drive-in. So obviously not the same movie-going experience of like, you're around a bunch of other people. You're all being shocked and crying at the same time and whatever. So the first Avengers for me is the one where it's just, I'll never forget going to the theater to see that. On that note, though, has a Marvel movie ever made you cry?
Made me cry? I don't think one's ever made me
tears.
Like never made me cry.
Not even Infinity War? I think most people would say that one.
You think people would say Infinity War? I feel like people would say Endgame.
Well, I think
when Iron Man like sacrifices himself, That's got to be and like you think about Iron Man sacrificed himself.
Mm-hmm.
Black Widow gets thrown off a ledge
Yeah.
to her death.
Uh-huh.
And so like immediately.
Doesn't Gamora die in that one too?
Yeah, Gamora. Yeah, she gets thrown off the ledge in Infinity War.
Yeah.
And so I guess that was pretty sad too.
Yeah.
Those are like the 3 saddest deaths I would say that people would possibly be able to cry about.
Have you seen Guardians 3 yet?
That's what I was gonna say.
That's your saddest?
My saddest Marvel movie that's made me probably not like, because obviously everyone's gonna say Infinity War Endgame.
Yeah.
I'm taking those out for the majority of my answers of everything. But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, extremely heart-wrenching. Like, that's just pulling at your heartstrings the whole movie. It's like kind of like tapping into like animal abuse.
Yeah.
Which is just a sad thing.
Yeah,
overall.
it feels like they're cheating.
Yeah,
a little bit in that
exactly.
one. I don't know if that actually made me cry though. Actually, I do know because I don't think it did. The one that made me cry, and it's not at a sad, I didn't cry when Iron Man sacrificed himself. I was thinking Infinity War, people might cry when like everybody starts disappearing. Of course, the moment when Spider-Man is, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. That's sad, but I don't cry for sad things. I cried happy tears. And should I feel embarrassed about this? In Endgame, when everybody's coming through the portals.
That was cool.
That was cool. And that hurt my heart in a good way of like, oh, I know, and it's just a movie, but, and they're all dressed, in ridiculous costumes, but all these people come out and they're, we're all on the same team. We're all here. We're all working together. I don't know why that gets to me, but it did. It did when I saw that. Teared up. That
was like an epic moment. Yet again, the Endgame and Infinity War are so much above all the other movies.
Yeah, very emotional.
It's really hard to compare them because the other one that I would say is Love and Thunder. End of that movie.
That made you tear up.
That was, I wouldn't say made me tear up like in the movie theater, but like definitely one of the more emotional scenes because you finally get to the end where you think that Jane Foster is going to be saved. Like that was the part that the whole movie, I'm like, she's going to die at some point. And then you get to the very end and you're like, she's going to live. Like she's going to be able to be saved. Like Thor did it. And then obviously you get, because that movie too, a lot of people hated on that movie.
Yeah.
I didn't hate on that movie just because I thought the ending was so surprising where Thor ends up taking the bad guy's daughter and saving her instead. That he wanted to save.
Yeah.
He was originally trying to save and letting the love of his life, Jane, like die.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like the end. That was a very emotional turn for me to where I thought that was one of the more emotional scenes. So mine are Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, just with all the things that go around with Rocket, and then the end of Thor: Love and Thunder. Just the twist. If it hadn't been for the twist, I don't think it would have been as emotional because I thought the whole movie she was gonna die. And so when they dangled her in front of me and they were like, oh no, she's gonna live.
Yeah.
And then they took it away again. That's when it really got me, where that was sad.
It is, yeah. The unexpected definitely plays a role in that. For me, the other one that as of late was emotional, and I didn't love or hate the movie overall. It was, just pretty, I don't know, it's just there. But the beginning, of course, of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where you're kind of eulogizing Chadwick Boseman and Black Panther, the character, that was pretty emotional, obviously, because that actually has real life. That was like a real life implications as well as in the Marvel universe. So that was pretty emotional, and I thought they did a good job of that.
I was gonna say I felt like they could have done way more.
You don't want to. I don't think.
Well, that was like, it was like the hard part of like, do you even? Because it felt like they didn't even really like touch on it at all.
Oh yeah, I thought they could have. I thought they struck a pretty good tone where it could have been exploitative, and I think they were always very careful of making sure that was not the case. That you weren't exploiting the fact that a real person actually died for emotion in a movie. Like they did what they could with it, but didn't overdo it to me. Yeah,
it just seemed like the exit of not even like, I don't think that they did a good enough job. Like I thought they had a good balance if it wasn't like the whole movie or anything, but their explanation of him going like in the actual franchise was almost nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
There was no story of like how he died. It was just like he's gone now.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of, it almost like, it wasn't like lazy, but it felt kind of lazy the way they just outed it. They just said, Black Panther's gone now.
Yeah.
And then there was no story, which I felt like they could have at least made a story. But at the same time, it's hard to be able to work through that one.
You see that more on TV and stuff where they do feel like they have to justify why a real life person died, and that means the character can't be around anymore. And then they try to like shoehorn in some explanation because you kind of need it more because it might be a lower profile of like, why is this character not on? But this, I mean, you don't need to mess with it too much. Everybody knows the guy actually died. And that's probably more, well, I mean, it is more important, but it's not that important to explain it to me because we all know what actually happened. Wow. It's hard to take let's do a positive turn from that. What was the biggest surprise in the Marvel universe? Not like the biggest surprise where you weren't expecting something that happened in a movie, but I mean, you had low expectations going into a movie or a show and it beat your expectations.
I would say none of the recent ones. Like, there's no way for me to put a lot of a great spin, just because all the recent stuff has been so negative, to where all the movies have been so.
It feels like your expectations are lower.
Are so low going into it, to where I can't even say that any of them have been like, oh, everybody said this one was bad, but I thought I really liked it, and so I'm going to go back to ones that just they surprised me in the fact that I came into the movie not expecting it to like it so much, which was the first one for me probably is going back to Guardians of the Galaxy. The original one.
I think a lot of people would say that.
Because coming into it, I just didn't think, I had no expectations. I didn't know what to think.
Yeah.
It was so early on.
Nobody knew the characters.
Yeah, it was so early on.
The James Gunn was very, like, he wasn't well known at that time. Even a lot of the, like, Chris Pratt even wasn't like a household name, right? When Guardians of the Galaxy came out.
No.
That's what kind of put him, obviously he was in Parks and Rec and stuff, but that was what skyrocketed him to like the level he is now. So that's a good answer.
Yeah, the original Guardians of the Galaxy, when I came into that, I had no expectations. And that's kind of when, for me at least, they really got the ball rolling in like the actual Infinity Saga franchise. Like for the franchise, I thought that was a big turning point for me as a fan, was Guardians of the Galaxy, because before that, I liked Iron Man, and I liked Thor, and I liked Captain America, and the original Avengers and everything. But then, once we got to Guardians of the Galaxy, that's when it really started to get like, oh, these movies are really good. Because then they kind of introduced like the humor to it, and kind of that was like a whole new brand of Marvel. Because prior to that, everything else was on Earth. Like obviously, you had Thor, who was kind of a mix of in between. But then Guardians of the Galaxy was straight space, a completely different feel to the whole movie, even
a lighter tone.
Yeah, there was so much comedy in it, and so that one for me, huge surprise, and that's really what got me going in the direction of real big fanhood. And then after that, it was definitely Doctor Strange, which was a movie that I watched that I had no expectations of going into, didn't know anything about Doctor Strange, and then he ended up being my favorite character.
Yeah, you love Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I thought the movie was so good, and that was one too that had comparatively so to all the other ones before it, just had a completely different feel to the whole movie. And so for that part as well, that was a really exciting, surprising one for me.
That's interesting because, well, I'll mention that in a moment. I think my two big surprises were back to back, and they are possibly my two actual favorite Marvel movies, and that is Spider-Man Homecoming and Thor Ragnarok. And the reason that those, I feel like they were big surprises, they beat my expectations. It's hard to go back and remember what I actually thought going into the movie. But what I will say is, you go prior to that Spider-Man movie, the more recent Spider-Man movies we had gotten were the Andrew Garfield ones, which were not as good. And even prior to that, Spider-Man 3, not the best of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. And so it felt like it had been a long time. It just felt like maybe Spider-Man movies, they're going to be tough. And you didn't know Tom Holland was great in Civil War, but is he actually like a whole Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland? How's that going to work? and it worked out great. One of my favorites. And then directly following that, Thor Ragnarok. Again, the first two Thor movies, Thor Dark World, a lot of people would say that's one of the worst Marvel movies that has been made. And the first Thor as well was fine, but it wasn't exciting to me. And so Thor Ragnarok, which then took a lot more of the Guardians of the Galaxy style tone. It was a way different take on Thor, and possibly the funniest of all the Marvel movies. And that's just where they hit their stride. And even if you thought they were going to be good going in, I didn't think they were going to be that good, and they were. So that's my two biggest positive surprises. What about biggest disappointment?
Movies I thought was going to be good, and then they just kind of flopped for me. One that I was really excited for was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Mm-hmm.
The recent one, I had high hopes for that movie. I didn't think it was terrible, but when I saw that Kang was going to be in it,
mm-hmm.
and then I saw the whole lineup of kind of what felt like was going to be kicking off, like the new era with Kang as the villain, I expected a lot more from that one. And it did not live up to it whatsoever for me. It just it felt like the whole movie going into it was going to be like the first, we'd been through like Thor: Love and Thunder, and then Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. And it felt like that was going to be the one that really was kicking off Phase 5, that was going to kind of take over like Kang's dynasty.
Yeah.
And we were going to kind of start to get a feel for what direction they were going in. And then it just ends.
Like a big overarching
theme.
Yeah.
Of like Kang's kind of plan, or at least how this is going to go. And then the movie ends, the ending of the movie happens, and you're like, Ant-Man defeated Kang? Really?
Yeah.
This is what happened? Like, this is how this movie ended? And so for me, that was a big disappointment. And the other one that I was disappointed in, and this one, people are not going to like this take, and that's okay. But this movie was so hyped up. And I think it's because I am not as big a fan of Spider-Man as a lot of Marvel people are.
Mm-hmm.
I think Spider-Man's cool. He's not like that high up on my list. Definitely way lower than the majority and the average.
Yeah.
In Spider-Man No Way Home, where they brought in the old Spider-Mans, all the old characters.
Yeah.
And everybody
people loved that.
People were so excited, and it was built up so much where you're like, oh my gosh, they're bringing everybody back.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a solid movie. I did. But it did not do all that much for me. It wasn't like it was this game changer Marvel movie that it was kind of built up to be for me. But yet again, I know people don't like that tape because other people like Spider-Man way more than I do. But for me, it just didn't do all that much for me. I thought it was a good Marvel movie. I didn't think it was like top 5, one of the best ones, which going into it, people built it up that way.
Yeah, no. I don't think I disagree. That's a good answer, because at the time, I think you saw it the same way, like where we didn't see it opening weekend. So there had been time where, everybody's talking about how good this is. It's so cool. They brought all the Spider-Mans together. They did a great job with it, whatever. And then, I remember seeing it, and entertaining movie.
Good movie.
But you add all the pieces together, and it actually, like, the movie didn't make a lot of sense, and it didn't quite hit home the way that it seemed to hit for so many other people, even though I had nostalgia for definitely the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man for sure. But like the movie just wasn't good enough to just having those characters in it wasn't good enough to make it a favorite movie.
I know people are going to hate that take.
No, they're going
to hate it.
A lot of people probably say one of their top 5 movies. And I really do. I like I like Spider-Man Homecoming a lot. I thought Far From Home is okay, and No Way Home. I don't know. You know what? I don't think I've only watched that one once. Maybe I need to give it another shot.
Which one? Spider-Man No Way Home?
No Way Home, yeah. Take another swipe at that one.
And you know what else? Going into this movie as well, Spider-Man No Way Home, the other reason that I was let down by it is because in all the previews for that movie, you want to talk about what Marvel's been lacking in. The previews have not been, the trailers have not been as hot.
They haven't been grabbing you?
They haven't been grabbing me, but that Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, like all the previews for that, talk about how to build up a movie. You're teasing like bringing back the old Spider-Man and bringing back all the old Spider-Man characters, and then you toss Doctor Strange in there. You just flirt with a little bit of Doctor Strange, drop him in. You know that's going to pull me in. Now I'm all in. Like, I've got Spider-Man, I've got all the old Spider-Man characters, and then I've got Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange plays a minuscule part in the movie, even though he was a third of the trailer. And then, so that was also a letdown for me.
Yeah.
As
Doctor Strange kind of sucks in the movie, too.
Yeah, he does.
He's not, he's like
not powerful at all. They like pretty much trap him the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Even though he's like the most powerful character in it.
That's all fair. You know, the other thing though I was gonna say is for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, that's your other choice. For me, that movie I feel almost beat my expectations because again, I don't think I saw that opening weekend, and even the reviews coming out prior to that movie were beating it down. A lot of people were not liking it.
Oh, they were. Yeah. They were crushing it. And in my mind, I was like, there's no way it's this bad.
Yeah. And prior to the reviews coming out, I was really excited. I thought the trailers looked good for that one.
Yep.
And Ant-Man, Paul Rudd. I'm just a big Paul Rudd guy. So and I had liked the prior two movies. I thought Ant-Man and the Wasp is one of the better Marvel movies. So one of the ones that's higher up there for me. So there was the tension of first I was super excited, then everybody hating on it dropped the expectations a ton, and then when I actually watched it, I thought, I mean, it's surely not a top tier Marvel movie, but it wasn't as bad as everybody else portrayed it as, and so that one beat my expectations once it got time to finally watch the movie. However, I'll say, I think possibly the movie that disappointed me the most in theaters upon first watch was Ant-Man. It may have been Ant-Man. It may have been the other one. But besides the Spider-Man No Way Home that we both agreed, is Doctor Strange also.
With the OG Doctor Strange?
The OG Doctor Strange.
Come on.
And the reason being is both of those, they're brand new characters. However, for like Doctor Strange, I was familiar with him from like not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just from the comics and cartoons or whatever. So I actually like Doctor Strange a lot. I thought the movie was okay. I thought Ant-Man, the movie was okay. But going into those, I think it's more on me. My expectations were so sky high. The problem with both of those is that they were like backstories. They were introducing the character. And so those movies are hard, I think, to make as good as some of the ones where you're already familiar and there's less explanatory stuff that needs to go on. Less of their pre-superhero lives need to be involved. So both of those, I'm not knocking the movie as far as like in the overall ranking of Marvel, but I am in comparison to what I thought going into it versus how I walked out of the theater. I think my expectations were just too high. It's not that the movies themselves were that bad. One last thing, and that is, out of all the characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which one do you think is the most similar to you?
That's a good question.
It's not who you wish you were.
Yeah. I have two that I would say I'm similar to, and I have one that I am not similar to.
Okay.
The two that I would say I'm most similar to, one is Ant-Man.
Okay.
My reasoning being is I think
a criminal.
I would say this is what I think about Ant-Man. I think the reason I would consider myself similar to Ant-Man is because he wants to do good. But along the way, he does a lot of bad. He can't help it. And he might be doing something bad, but he's doing it for a good reason.
Yeah, sure.
And so I feel like he has good morals, even though sometimes he likes to bend the rules a little bit. And then I would lean very similarly, in a similar vein to that, to Iron Man. Because Iron Man, yet again, emotional. He's somebody who, yet again, breaks all the rules, but he's trying to do the right thing. And so along the way, he's going to mess up, both of them. Which, in that way, I would say I'm similar to. I'm trying to do the right thing. Most likely going to mess something up or make it worse along the way, probably. That goes for my personal life and my work life as well.
Wait, which is the one that you're not similar to then?
And then the person that I would want to be similar to, because he's my favorite, but we couldn't be almost further apart, I think, is Doctor Strange.
Why do you say that?
Because Doctor Strange, in the exact opposite vein of Ant-Man and Iron Man, is such like a logical thinker.
Yeah.
Wants to do the exact correct thing. Like he gave away the time stone to Thanos because he knew that that was the only way that they'd realistically be able to win.
Yeah, you're not that smart.
Whereas
you don't see that many steps ahead.
Iron Man, on the other hand, was willing to just fight it out and just do it right then.
Yeah.
Emotional. Not even though he's a genius, he was just logically. He's not a logical person. Emotional person. Would rather just do it right there and figure it out along the way. Where Doctor Strange, way too logical of a thinker for me. Always making the right moves. I am not that way. Wish I could be. I'm not.
That's very thoughtful.
It's a good breakdown.
Very thoughtful, yeah. For me, the Marvel character I'm most similar to, I think of Happy. I think, much like Happy, I try to be helpful. A little bit pathetic.
Yes. This is working out so far.
Yeah.
I like where you're going with this.
Happy comes to mind. I also think of Star-Lord.
Star-Lord's a good one.
Yeah, because I'm a bit of a ladies' man, obviously.
Oh, whoa.
Pretty smooth.
In what way?
Really good sense of humor. So I think that one makes sense. I think Thor comes to mind. I'm in very good shape. Captain Marvel. I'm a strong, independent woman capable of doing things by myself that other people, I don't need a team of heroes. I don't know. You know what? Maybe Rocket Raccoon. I'm a bit abrasive on the surface. I can be a bit selfish. Rocket Raccoon, I guess he has a difficult upbringing, but that's not me. But he, when it comes down to it, he'll stick up for his friends. He'll do the right thing. That's probably more.
I was thinking maybe Hawkeye for you.
You think I'm Hawkeye?
Yeah, Hawkeye.
Often forgotten member of the Avengers.
Yeah, I would say like you're there. You're always there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's about the extent of you.
Yeah, I might be in the shadows.
I work like, especially like that's how I think like too. Is the Avengers, it's a big team thing.
Yeah.
So like I'd be down there, part of the team, and then we keep Hawkeye. We keep him far away.
Yeah.
He's a solo man. We keep him out there on top of the skyscrapers. He's out there just doing his own thing, just sniping from afar. He's doing something up there. He's not getting the most kills.
Yeah.
He's
helpful,
a part of the team though.
Helpful.
He's there.
Nobody's kicking him out.
No, he's there.
You're right. That is me. Nobody's saying Hawkeye go home.
Nobody's saying get him out of here.
Yeah.
He's always invited.
When he leaves the Avengers, is anybody like, no, don't go?
Yeah. Did someone get out of here?
Family man. I'm a bit of a family man. That's a good comp, actually. I do have one more question, and that is, through all the doom and gloom of the Marvel universe right now, where people just do not feel like they have the same hopes that they used to for what Marvel can be, what's something you're looking forward to? There's still a lot coming in the pipeline.
I know.
Although Deadpool 3 is the only Marvel movie at this time scheduled to release in the next calendar year.
There's no way they keep it that way, right?
Well,
because the one
maybe
after that,
maybe we all need a break. Maybe they need a break.
Maybe they need to get some things together, because after that, we got Deadpool 3 is supposed to release July.
And listen, if
2024.
If Deadpool 3 doesn't work out, that could spell the end for everything else in the future.
If you can't make Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool 3 funny and good,
bringing back Hugh Jackman, all that,
I would say, because after that, it's supposed to be Captain America: Brave New World, and that's coming in February of 2025. That's like the first time that we're going to see Falcon probably really take on the Captain America role. So that you're playing with a lot of danger there. If you're going to make a Captain America movie, it better be good. And then that's followed up May, Fantastic Four. People will be very excited for that.
Yeah.
Then you've got Thunderbolts in July. Dang, they really released them quick then. Then we've got Blade in November. Holy moly. There's 4 in 2025.
I was looking back. That's typical. Every year except 2020, going back to 2016, going back to 2017. So the past 6 years, with the exception of one, obviously, with COVID, they've done either 3 or 4 movies every year. And this 2024 will be the first one that only has one.
You got to think that I think the make or break movie, because we don't have very many between now and this one, is going to be Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. When you pull the Avengers back together again and you put Avengers on the top of a movie,
whoever those Avengers may be,
they've got to be.
You got to deliver, right?
Mm-hmm. That's going to be. You would think that would be the main 4, 5, 6, whoever it's going to be, superheroes of the next phase. And so in that one, Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, if they come out with that, I know with all the Kang stuff going on,
who knows?
But you would think that would be the one that really could just completely ruin it. Because if you have a group of Avengers that people can't mess with, they can't be happy with, then if the Avengers people don't like, you're totally done for.
I just think by that point we'll know.
2026.
I think we'll know before then, because I think there's a lot of like, again, if Deadpool 3 is no good, if that flops, then all of this stuff is thrown into question.
It's just tough because when I look at we have 5 movies between now and the next Avengers movie, and none of these to me are like make or break movies. Outside of Deadpool 3, good movie. Doesn't feel super Marvel to me, but it's could be a good movie. Then you've got Captain America: Brave New World. That one's really important. Then you follow up with Fantastic Four, which is going to be so different. Thunderbolts, very different. Blade, very different. And then it comes back to an Avengers movie. And so you got to think in between there that I think the movies are going to be so different, it's going to be hard to judge.
I think Deadpool 3 is make or break. I think Fantastic Four will be like, I fully expect Deadpool 3 to deliver. It's just, there's no way it's not going to be good. I think Captain America could go either way. Like,
me too.
I probably expect that to not be good, but I think they can survive if it's not really a hit. But I think Fantastic Four will be the other one, because those are more well-known characters and they're introducing them, and like that, you gotta have good names for the Fantastic Four, whoever portrays them, and you just got to deliver on that.
People will be excited for Thunderbolts still.
My top thing I'm looking forward to is actually not a movie, though. I mean, I'm looking forward to Deadpool 3, but I love some of the Daredevil stuff that was on Netflix, and so I really have high hopes for and they just keep in some cases, the fact that you have to keep shuffling people in and out of roles on a show or movie would mean that it's not going to be good. But I think on Daredevil, that's because they really know they need to get it right, and so they shuffle people in and out. But I think that's because they are going to make sure that the Daredevil show on Disney Plus delivers, and so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, some of the shows, I'll be excited to see what they do show-wise in that time where we don't have a lot next year. I wonder if they're going to try to fill in with any shows, which I like the shows.
I think so, and I think only having one movie come out next year will make the shows feel more exciting.
Yeah.
Echo and whatever else they wind up getting to will feel more like a big deal, because it's not going to feel like it's second fiddle to the movies like it currently does. Well, this is a lot of fun. I'm glad that we get to do this every week now.
You guys can text in if you have anything else you wanted to talk about.
At length.
Yeah.
Yeah, a chance to expound on stuff a little bit. 8772 RadioU is always the number to text us. And remember to send in some suggestions for names for these episodes as well. And we will catch you next time.
See you guys.